The quest for solution continues as our nation continues to experience dastardly acts all over. My name is Kali Ikwe. Welcome to another edition of our program, Violence Free World. And we have a very special guest in the house, a communication consultant and public affairs expert. His name is Kizito Alakwe, PhD. Mr. Alakwe, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much.
Well, Mr. Alakwe, we're going to come back and then discuss certain issues that touches on violence and how to get around it. But that will be after this special report. Be here. The raging spate of violence in Nigeria has continued to defy all forms of approach at resolving it. Virtually all parts of Nigeria face this challenge, which ranges from banditry in the northwest, kidnapping on our highways, the IPOB menace in the southeast, killer headsmen in the southwest and the Midwest, to insurgency in the northeast. Particularly, the new trend of hostage taking for huge ransom, mostly borne by the government, has become rather too often and smacks of complicity from very high quarters.
We also have situations where children are kidnapped at different level and at different intervals, and what happened at the end of the day is that we take money to go and beg them to release our children to us. So if you are now on a negotiation table, who determines the pace of where the pendulum swings to? Now if you look at all this, the question is, who is having upper hand as at now? Can we conveniently, boldly, truthfully say that our security is having an upper hand?
Public outcry against this trend has dominated national discourse, with some sectors resorting to self-help by way of vigilante groups, like in the case of Amotekun in the southwest and JTF in the north, a measure that is more or less official by now. The attendant fear and anxiety have brought about a rhetoric of fury as people trade accusations and counter-accusation as to who is responsible for the dastardly acts.
We have avalanche of laws in this country that criminalizes terrorism. We have avalanche of laws in this country that criminalizes kidnapping, abduction, and the like. Now, all these laws have not been put to place against any one of these people. To the best of my knowledge, look at the number of those that were arrested, and after arrest they will be handed over to their governors as repentant terrorists. This is the only country in the whole world that have had that people will kill villagers, turn children to orphan overnight, sack a whole village, destroy properties that are worth millions of naira, destroy the economy of a state, and at the end of the day, the state itself, the security agencies will hand them over to their governors, and they will be received with high level of puppetry and then joy and all those stuff like that.
Ethnic and religious profiling have regrettably featured too prominently in the blame game, and it is only serving to exacerbate the already bad situation.
Yes. I feel terrible when Nigerians, the average Nigerian, sees crime and criminality within a narrow prism of tribe or religion. It's in vogue now world over that Muslims are really the culprits. Xenophobia. Muslims are seen as terrorists because terrorism is a multi-billion-dollar industry all over. And Muslims, unfortunately, have where it takes because mainly the oil wells are with the Muslim countries. It's all about that.
Dialogue, it is record, holds a potential to ultimately resolve the spate of violence and consolidate our effort at national integration. But just how can we aggregate our opinions to make the dialogue measure work as we seek a violence-free Nigeria? Welcome back. This is Violence Free World, and my guest, like I did say, is Dr. Kizito Alakwe, and is very much in the house. A communication expert, consultant, and public affairs expert as well. Mr. Alakwe, now let's go quickly to the questions now. We are searching for solutions, and a lot of people have often said the best way to go is dialogue. And I've been wondering just who and who are participating in this dialogue. Dialogue towards what? Towards peace. Do you believe that this is a solution too?
Yes, I'll start by saying yes. At the heart of harmony, promoting a harmonious society is dialogue. And when we say dialogue here, we are looking at dialogue from the people in government and the communities and the citizens. The truth is that no real development can occur in any society without a harmonious relationship between the governed and the government. So that said, dialogue is at the center of this plan, of this desire to achieve a harmonious society called Nigeria.
I was just asking that the parties involved in this dialogue. Remember, we have bandits, group of bandits, and they are not just one united sect. They are different, just like businessmen scattered all over. They have found this lucrative. They kidnap people today, tomorrow a ransom is paid. They get more emboldened, they get richer, they get better funded, they buy more weapons, they carry out more kidnappings, and they make a lot more money. And now suddenly you say you want a dialogue. Remember, in the study of violence, you cannot take away the gun from an individual and give him nothing in return, especially if this individual were making money from this. So what manner of dialogue, and how do we even trust what you're doing?
Okay, you're very right. And that is why the best strategy in this scenario must be hydra-headed. So multi-pronged, such that as you're talking to these people, you're also ensuring that the security agencies are up to their work. At the same time, the media also need to do something, need to work. So at the same, what I'm saying in essence is that all these strategies must coalesce to be able to tackle this problem. Let me break it down. You can imagine a scenario where the military or the security apparatus of the country go all out for these people. So once you're caught, you face the law. But while this is happening, there's also information going out to these people to let them know that what they're doing is not the best way. It doesn't solve any problem. Rather, if we go that route, we'll all die. The nation will collapse. And then telling them what they should be doing. There are so many other things they can do, which is where behavior change communication comes in. And as this is happening, you're also encouraging those of them that maybe they have a change of heart. So if I was a bandit, or if I'm a criminal, and at some point I felt what I'm doing is not good, the government should be able to pick me up and redirect my path. Because if they don't do that, the bandit group can take me back. And when I go back, I get to become worse than I was earlier.
Yes, you're talking about the carrot and stick thing. Why discussions are going on, let the military or let the law enforcement agencies be at their best in doing what they should do. Now, I'm looking generally. I asked a question here that if you are already involved with kidnapping, banditry, and you're making a lot of money from this stuff. Does it mean now that we're going to be looking at pacifying these people, giving some sort of amnesty, to which I understand the presidency has said they're not towing that path? Yeah. Are you for that?
You know, we have our opinions and views. To be honest, I'm not for amnesty. You know, amnesty is given to people who are fighting injustice. Maybe in the process, like the Irish Republican Army, for instance. You know, when you give such people amnesty, it's understandable. But not to a criminal. If a criminal is caught in the act, there are laws. You don't subvert the laws. So I don't believe in amnesty, because what happens is that you're encouraging those who are yet, who lack the will, that negative way to go into crime. You're giving them good reasons to go into crime. So when you give amnesty to a bandit, you start paying him salary for a period, you send him abroad to go to school, when some of us who have been fighting on our own to survive in this country, nobody has given us nothing has come our way.
That's more like, less like encouraging people who are violent.
Yes, that's exactly what. If you do amnesty, then what you're doing is encouraging
violence.
Crime. Encouraging crime is not done.
Now, looking at this now, this brings me to the issue of what I call corporate conspiracy. By that, I mean people who ordinarily should be solution are now found complicit in our adversity. You've heard in Zamfara State, some monarchs implicated. In Niger State, the governor was talking tough in that regard. In the time of Goodluck Jonathan, some Boko Haram members were actually in his government, and you're also aware of instances of where some members of the military have been caught with large sums of money in the world. Why would they want this to end if this kind of? But you are aware of the existence of this reality. What would you say to that?
You see, yes, those things exist. And when GJ made that pronouncement, he wasn't joking. He was being sincere and realistic. The truth is that, you know, when we talk about crime, it's individualistic. So somebody can be a staff of a ministry but have criminal tendencies. The question we should ask is, what brings out this tendency? What makes it to come, you know, the outward expression of those tendencies within? What causes it? And the reason is not far-fetched. The rule of law. When the legal system is porous, it gives room for some of these things to fester. You know, so if I'm in the military and I have sympathy with Boko Haram, for instance, what stops that likeness, that affinity to Boko Haram? What stops it from, you know, being expressed physically? Is the rule of law. That's the only way it can stop me. But when I realize that I can actually do something bad and get away with it, the tendency to go ahead and do those bad things will be there.
Okay, now we're going to come back down and then discuss the ethnicization of violence, but that will be after we return from this break. This is Violence Free World. We'll be right back after this time out. Welcome back. This is Violence Free World, and my guest is still very much in the house, Dr. Kizito Alakwe. Before we went on a break, we hinted at discussing the ethnicization of violence, coloring violence to look like it is coming from a particular part of the country. Now, in our discussions even before here, you hinted at the real victims of violence being the headsmen. That's one name that has featured the most once banditry, kidnapping, and the rest are mentioned, are being discussed. Do you actually think that we're getting it right or wrong as far as these issues are concerned?
I think we are getting it wrong. And I can give you my reasons. But before I go on, let me just say this, that it is good that in recent times, the media has stopped, to a large extent, using the word Fulani herdsmen or killer herdsmen and all that. I remember years back, I asked somebody in a forum, and I said, how do you identify a taxi driver? How do you know a mechanic? That the only way you identify a taxi driver is that the young man is inside a taxi driving. Now, I went further to ask, how do I identify a herdsman? It's because he has his cows behind him. And then I asked, are you people telling me that when they go to commit all these criminal commitment, they are going with cows? Because that's the only way you can call them herdsmen. But I'm not sure somebody running away from a crime scene will be doing what? Will be running with cows. That's not true. So if you ask me, the real herdsmen in this whole scenario, they are the victims. Personally, I strongly believe that the herdsman needs help. That in the 21st century, that some people are still living in the forest, living with animals, is something that needs to be questioned.
But how about this thinking that they are not disposed to change? They love that way. That's why even their cows know this route, you understand, and you're coming to put up structures. That's why you even found them in the cities. That's why you find them in people's farms all over. Yeah. That they are not. What are you supposed to do as far as this is concerned?
This takes us back to our earlier discussion on dialogue. You see, you can't overnight change people's culture. Culture they've been living with for the past 100 years. It takes time. Now, for you to change my culture, you need to let me know. You need to convince me clearly why that culture needs to be changed. There's no human person that doesn't like the good things of life. There was a time in Nigeria, in Calabar, they were killing twins. Why did they stop? Somebody convinced them. It took time to let them know that, look, killing twins is wrong. Same in Nigeria, we all went to school. We are all graduates from the universities today. There was a time there was no school in Nigeria, or the place called Nigeria today. The training is in the farms, in the forest, hunting, and all that. But we adopted some of those cultures because we felt the way we were doing it was wrong. So it will take time, but the government needs to devise a proper strategy to reorientate those young boys. I see them all the time. I've never seen them with AK-47. When you see them, they actually beg. If you have food, give them, they take. When I was in primary school, we had herdsmen in my community. They pass. When they pass, we all come out to watch them and the cows.
So who are the people victimizing these people now? Is it the criminals who may be Fulanis actually, but they're ordinarily not herdsmen, now masking as herdsmen and then giving them a bad name? Is that what you're trying to say, in essence?
We are going into a different area now, but I'll tell you this. The human person is born with that innate capacity to be selfish. I can tell you that. That's why if you go to the traditional families, some uncles will be working so hard to ensure their nephews don't succeed in life. It happens within the family, within the community, within the society, within the states. That's why you see that people from a particular area who always want the good things of life at the detriment of another set of people. Now, what happens is that if I have the opportunity to step on the other tribe so that I can go up, I do it. But because we are human beings, in animals it's more pronounced, but because we are human beings and we have that gift of rationality, we use our rational thinking to know that we are all one. At the end of the day, that we are all one, created by God. Now, what happens is that once in a while, you see this propaganda, whatever you call it, against a particular tribe. There was a time it was against Igbos. Consciously, serious bombardment. Today is the turn of the Fulanis. 10 years ago, nobody was hearing Fulani. It's very rare. It's very rare to hear the word Fulani.
Well, so what was it you heard about the Igbos?
Let me finish. No, let me finish. Now, later, we're hearing Hausa Fulani. Those two names always go together. Today, it's been split. How did it happen? You can't tell. But people do those things. It takes skills.
Are there some special experts somewhere?
Yes.
People somewhere that
the truth is that anybody can do some of these things. It all depends on the mindset and the sinister motive in us. We can. For instance, as you are now, if I meet a friend of yours, and after greeting the friend, of course, the friend knows that I know you, we're all friends. And I ask him, say, what happened? What did Kali do to you? Or what did you do to Kali, for instance? And the person will ask me, what happened? I say, no, there was something I saw. It wasn't clear to me. What happened? The person, you're asking me what happened. I say, no, don't worry. Don't worry, it's okay. What I have done with that singular statement is to poison your mind. When you see that your friend tomorrow, the way you greet will change. Because I've sown that seed of suspicion in you. It's very easy. It can be done at a community level. It can be done at the level of the nation.
It just calls for us to be more circumspect in our relationship with each other generally.
Yeah.
So as we wind down, Dr. Kizito, I'd like you to give in your advice on the way forward. Everybody has been talking dialogue from everywhere and everybody's talking tough. I don't know where that's taking us to. So as we wind down, just give us your take on this and then way forward.
Okay, there's this saying that those that beat the drums of war,
yes,
they don't know that war equates to death and destruction. And it can be, all of us, we are all mortals. And as mortals, we can die. So if you're beating the drums, don't be surprised you might be the first to go. Now, in times like this, one way out is what we call peace journalism. How do you do that? You focus more, pay more attention to those news bits, information that promotes peace. Like I tell people, you enter the aircraft today, you don't care who is flying, whether it's Fulani or Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa. You don't care. Your prayer is let's land in one piece. You go to a trader in the market, you want to buy something. The trader will never ask you, which tribe are you from? All he's interested is to sell his goods. You go to the hospital at the point of death, and the Fulani doctor comes, or Igbo doctor comes, or Yoruba doctor comes. You don't say, no, I don't want a Yoruba doctor. All you want is to get what? To get well. What that tells you is that in the final analysis, we can still come together as one. But our problem is what? Politics. Once you come to politics, we pull our sword. We want to fight to death. And if that is the case, who would have caused it? Who is the culprit? The politicians. They are the ones that play this dangerous game. What? So why pit people against each other? Finally, aside from peace journalism, the government needs a lot to do in the area of orientation. We need to be reoriented. It has gone down. In those days, we watch all those soaps on TV, Village Headmaster, Cockra, Dawn. You know, the whole essence of those soaps is to bring us together, to show that we can all live as one. And it was fun. Today, they've broken everything apart. And for what reason? To take over the hem of affairs of this nation. But at the end of the day, if we're not careful, there will be no nation to take over if we're not careful.
Very true. Dr. Kizito Alakwe, I think that's a very good point to leave it. At this point, I must thank you very much for finding time to oblige me.
Thank you very much.
Well, I've been speaking with Dr. Kizito Alakwe, a public communications consultant and scholar. My name is Kale Ikpe. Same time next week, promise even a better edition if you endeavor to be here. And until then, please remember to remain on the road to a violence-free Nigeria. Thank you for watching.
No